Namaskaram. Hi, Michael, Ernesto. Today, the question is about pride, arrogance, and spiritual envy, and the effects they have on the sadhaka along the path.
Right. What exactly is it you want to ask about this, Ernesto, or say about this?
It's a question of a friend that told me if it's possible we speak about that. No.
Okay.
How is the effects in the life of a sadhaka who feel the envy or the arrogance or all of that? No, how can disturb the correct line of the way of the path? No, for a serious sadhaka. How can disturb? How can affect? What are the risks with that? How it arise and for what reasons?
Right. Right. What I would say on this is, when we are trying to go within, all sorts of vasanas will rise. That is, as Bhagavan said, everything that is inside has to come out. So all the vasanas that we have accumulated in so many, over so many countless lives, will will sooner or later rise to the surface. The most effective way to deal with all vasanas is to cling to self-attentiveness. Sometimes if our love to hold on to self-attentiveness is weak, we get carried away by the vasanas, we get swayed by them, as Bhagavan would put it. And under the sway of vasanas, we may feel pride or envy or arrogance or any of these things. But generally, when we are following this path, the deeper we're going in this path, the less hold these things will have on us. That is, to the extent to which we hold on to self-attentiveness, ego subsides. And with the subsidence of ego, automatically it's any pride or arrogance or envy it may have will subside along with it. So really, in this path, we are cutting at the very root of all these problems. So I think, though these things may rise to the surface of the mind, I think if we're really following this path, these sort of vasanas will tend to affect us less. I mean, what is there for us to be proud about or arrogant about? The more we go in this path, the more we become painfully aware of our own inadequacies, our lack of love, our lack of true, that love means the love to hold on to our own being. So we automatically, this is the most humbling of all practices, because it is showing us all our own weaknesses and defects and everything. So when we are shown so clearly our own inadequacies, what room is there for us to feel any pride or arrogance? And as far as envy is concerned, it's possible to feel envy about worldly achievements. I mean, if supposing we want to be very rich, we may be envious of those who are richer than us. Supposing we want to be very famous, we can be envious about those who are more famous than us. But if our aim is to subside back within, what is there to be envious about? We cannot see what spiritual progress others are making. So it's meaning. I mean, I can't see how we can. That it is term spiritual envy. Well, if it's envy or pride or arrogance, it's certainly not spiritual. But even in a spiritual context, what room there is for envy, I can't see it. I mean, I can imagine a worldly person who wants to achieve worldly things, may be envious of those who achieve more of that particular worldly thing. If you want to be very learned, you may be envious of those who are more learned. If you want to be successful in your career, you may be envious of those who are more successful in their career. But in this spiritual path, which is just about withdrawing and subsiding back in the heart, where is the room for any envy? I don't see it.
Don't you see in any case, no, when you in the past usually wrote in the blog with other friends, some people that has this envy for your knowledge or for your comprehension, no, on wants to stay in your place or want to have your understanding of Bhagavan teachings. Do you find people in this?
I don't know if anyone is envious of me. They don't know what I'm like inside. They see only the exterior, and just because that is how I'm able to explain Bhagavan's teachings. I can't say it's purely by his grace, but
because I remember some people that when you explain something, no, in the blog, for the quality of their answers, no, it's very very clear, no, that these people have an anger with they can explain some things, no, about the teachings, or you correct with some explanation, and they feel for the context, no, of their answers, for the quality of their answers, hunger, no, and with
yes. But these things, I mean, these sort of feelings can arise only if we're okay. Supposing it is true that I have a better understanding or something. That is only an outward achievement. Whatever I understand is of no use at all unless I can apply it in actually subsiding back in the heart. So just seeing that I'm more learned or more capable of answering questions, I mean, I can't understand if someone is really following the spiritual path. I mean, I can understand envy as I say, I can understand envy in a worldly context, but in a spiritual context, when our only aim is turning back and subsiding in the heart, there's really no room for envy. But I suppose it is true that there are people who for one reason or another are attracted to the spiritual path, but aren't really following it. I suppose in such a context, people may feel envy or so on, but that's not really a problem. I mean, that's a problem because of not following the path. If someone is, that is, people may be, I mean, I'm just trying to imagine, people may be attracted to the spiritual path, thinking that this is a means to gain name and fame. I mean, there are certainly people, there are many, we see so many would-be gurus, people who seek followers, who seek name and fame and everything, but they are not real spiritual aspirants. They are just using spirituality for some worldly gain, whether it be money or name or fame or whatever it is, or appreciation of others. But that's not spirituality. As we've learned from Bhagavan, true spirituality is about turning within and subsiding back in the heart. So if we are truly trying to follow Bhagavan's path, I cannot see how there can be certainly not room for pride or arrogance, because if we're really following this path, we'll be seeing very clearly how very inadequate we are for this path. Any true spiritual aspirant will, I mean, see any work, see Bhagavan's Aksharammalai. Bhagavan is there praying from the perspective of a we can say a very advanced spiritual seeker. That is the state of mind Bhagavan is portraying in many of the verses, is the state of mind of a very mature, advanced spiritual seeker. We will, the more we advance in this path, the more humble we will feel, the more we will not see the defects of others. We will be seeing our own defects. Whatever defects we see in others, it's only a reflection of our own defects. So we'll be trying to correct ourselves, and we'll be praying to overcome our own weaknesses. Our own weaknesses means our strong inclinations to go outwards, and rather than to cling to self-attentiveness. So true spirituality, if we're truly following this path, it can only lead to subsidence and humility. If someone is feeling pride and arrogance and envy, they're simply not following this path. That's what it seems to me. That's how it appears to me. I mean, I don't know. Other people may have other views, but I can't see it otherwise.
In my opinion, maybe there are some people that is trying to be serious, but they can, because find this problem, no? Substitute the invite, for example, in their last jobs, no?
Yeah.
For the invite or the pride in the spirituality, and they fall in a temporary step, because they can see how to go out of this, because they can stop and change, and when they try to make Atma-vichara, no? It's a case that some friends of Yo Soy Tu Mismo that wrote us open his hearts, no? Sometimes it's the case of this friend that asked me, no, for we speak about this topic, no? And he said that he can't avoid to try to be like a professor, like a teacher. When we say something, no, and when he saw some videos of us, he feel a pain in his heart, because he has a mix of love and admiration, Carlos is admiration, mixed with invite, no, and he told me with very, very sincerity, no, he said, I like to be in the place of you or Michael, telling about the Bhagavan's teachings. I can stop this pain in my heart and this desire, but in the other way, I feel love for you. I have admiration for what you are transmitting. I only can say to him, you try to look who's this I that feel that and go inside of you.
This is what I said at the beginning. That is, all sorts of things, all sorts of vasanas will rise to the surface of the mind. But if we are following this path, it's the more subtle vasanas that are the real challenge. Generally, overcoming things like pride and arrogance and envy, these are, it seems to me, these are the first problems we will, I don't say, none of us have overcome these things completely. We may think we are free of pride and arrogance, but still we all like people to say nice things about us. We people say, appreciate us, we feel good about it. If people say something bad about us, we feel bad about it. But we need to see these things. This is not these are problems within ourselves. So we can tackle these problems only by going more and more within. Why should we expect anyone to appreciate us? If the more we follow this path, the more we see our own shortcomings. So when people may say bad things about us, we should be thinking to ourselves, they know nothing, they are seeing only the surface, what's underneath is so much worse. So we should always be turning back towards ourselves, seeing I mean, of course, we're not to dwell on our own defects, but we cannot, if we are following this path. Bhagavan used a beautiful analogy in Aksharamlai. Mukila mungatu mukha ramahadane tukiane daralaranachala. Be not like a mirror held before a noticeless man. Uplift me and embrace me. If we are following this spiritual path is like a mirror held before a noseless man. That the more we try to go within, the more we see our own shortcomings, our own lack of love, our own earnestness in clinging to self-attentiveness, our own lack of earnestness in clinging to self-attentiveness. So we cannot follow this path without feeling like Bhagavan expresses in that verse, feeling like this path is like a mirror held before a noseless man. It's showing us all these defects. We come here to know what we actually are, to know ourselves as infinite, eternal Satchidananda. But along the way, we have to see all the shortcomings of the individual whom we seem to be. So this path is, if we're truly following this path, it is an unfailing recipe for gaining humility. If we really want to be humbled, we should try to turn within, because then only we will see we will see how worthless we are. So anyone who is truly trying to follow this path will automatically be humbled thereby. That's my experience, and that seems to me to be the only way it can be. I mean, there may be some people who think, I am following Atma-vichara, my path is a superior path and everything. But if they're thinking in such a way, they're not truly following this path. If we're truly following this path, we become more and more humble. We don't envy others. We don't look down on others. We see whatever defects we see in others, we see the seeds of those same defects in ourselves. Yes, we can see the seeds maybe of pride and arrogance and envy, but if we're truly following this path, these seeds may be trying to rise, but there'll be no room for them. They'll have no oxygen to thrive in, or no water to thrive on, because we see so clearly our own shortcomings.
Especially in the moment of truth, when we are to put this into practice, because
yes, when we put it into practice, then it's fine when you know it all in theory and everything. You think, oh, I understand this, I understand Bhagavan, but only if we start to put it into practice, then we understand how poor our understanding is. If we really understood what Bhagavan was talking about, we would have no inclination to cling to anything, to attend to anything other than our own being. But we all know we have so much interest in so many other things. Our mind jumps out with so much enthusiasm to attend to the world. This shows that we really haven't, whatever understanding we have of Bhagavan's teachings is still very, very superficial. So that is, following Bhagavan's path gives though it may churn out all the vasana, the seeds of those, the vasanas of pride and arrogance and envy and everything, there's no, if we're trying with even the slightest sincerity to follow this path, there'll be no room in our heart for these the vasanas may be there, the vasanas may rise up, but there'll be no room for these vasanas to thrive.
Mhm. Yeah, especially also there are so many ups and downs, like maybe you gain some clarity and you deepen a little bit some part of Bhagavan's teaching, but then next day it's like it becomes very offensively hurtful.
Exactly.
You are capable of.
Yeah.
And those moments are very, I don't know.
Yeah.
You cannot put aside, look aside.
Yeah.
And say, no, this is
Yeah.
truth. I have to be realistic, as you said.
Yeah.
It's very, very, very hard to put it.
I mean, it's one thing to understand Bhagavan's teachings conceptually, but to put that understanding into practice, when we try to put it into practice, then only we understand how superficial our understanding is. We may have understood the concepts correctly, but it's still a superficial understanding, because if we had really understood it, if we really knew it is harmful to us to attend to anything other than ourselves, we wouldn't attend to anything other than ourselves. The fact that we are attending to other things is because we're still seeking happiness in things other than ourselves. So we haven't even understood, we haven't truly understood even the most basic teaching of Bhagavan, that there's no happiness in anything external, anything other than ourselves. Happiness is our own real nature. There's no happiness in anything other than our own being.
That is the difference that I think you are explaining, no, is the difference in between the understanding, superficial understanding, and integration, a real integration of the profound meaning of all these words, no? And this is a way, no? It's a highway, no?
Understanding Bhagavan's teachings conceptually is necessary, because if we don't understand correctly, we're not going to practice it correctly. But the conceptual understanding is only the beginning. The real understanding is the deep inner clarity, where we can see these things clearly for ourselves. If we could really see clearly for ourselves that happiness lies only within us and not in any other thing, our mind would go only within. The fact that our mind is still going outwards means we still don't have sufficient clarity to see that there is no happiness whatsoever in any external thing.
Yes.
So, but vasanas are there for all of us. And it's inevitable that these vasanas rise. But as I say, if we are with even the slightest sincerity trying to follow this path, though those vasanas may rise, there'll be no room for them to thrive. That is, a slight feeling of pride or arrogance may arise, and the next moment we think, oh, how foolish I am. I know how worthless I am. So how is there room for me to even begin to feel pride or arrogance?
And sometimes it's not so complexity how too many people think that you must to make all the ritualist of Atma-vichara, asking you, when you begin to have this slight disposition, no, to retire your attention from the vasanas who arise, you begin to stay in the presence of I am. Maybe a little at first, no, but this part of the job, no, that is retire your attention of
Yeah.
this temptation
Yeah.
to continue looking for this vasana and
Yeah.
try to stay a part of that and stay in the silence in you
Yes.
is more that than too many people think, no?
Yeah. As you say, this is very, very simple. And if we may not be very good at clinging to self-attentiveness and subsiding within, but at least if we've understood Bhagavan's teachings to any extent at all, the enthusiasm to run out to will be greatly reduced. So we may not be very successful at subsiding within, but at least the grosser effects of our vasanas will be reduced. The vasanas are still there, but they're losing their strength. So we are not able to rush outwards with the same degree of enthusiasm that we did before. The world still seems to be real, but it doesn't seem as real as it did before. There still seems to be sources of pleasure outside, but they don't seem so real. So we are less convinced than we were previously that we can achieve happiness in anything outside. So that is, we cannot follow Bhagavan's path without these subtle effects happening. So it may seem to us we're making no progress. We don't have sufficient love to turn within and to subside back into the heart. But if we really have even the slightest inclination to follow this path, that will how to say, it will counterbalance any enthusiasm to run outwards. So yes, we still have some desires, we still have some attachments and so on and so forth, but somehow these are far less strong than they were in the past. They have far less impact on us than they had in the past.
And I think also maybe some people, if they don't understand the implication of Bhagavan's teachings correctly, to some people, the words can be very deceptive. And people may think that, okay, so Michael must practice what he preaches. I mean, you would say
I wish.
Just like you would think that a therapist or a psychologist you go to, they must be psychologically healthy and or a teacher make mistakes or whatever.
Often the psychologists are those with the most psychological problems. So I may appear very good at preaching. Unfortunately, I'm not so good at putting what I preach into practice. Of course, I try. I have some aspiration to do so, but I have to be honest. I feel my aspiration and my sincerity in putting this into practice, my love to put this into practice, to me at least, it seems to be hopelessly inadequate.
All of us, I think.
Yeah. I think anyone who's really following this path.
I think it's the most recurrent question that people ask you. I mean, it's how because each one thinks that they're the worst.
Yeah.
Anybody else be worse than I am, you know?
If we don't think we are the worst, we are not following this path.
I don't know if talking about what you said about happiness before, I don't know if we can use this analogy. Obviously, it's going to be imperfect, but let's say that if a person who likes some kind of food at some restaurant, and they go to that restaurant, but the waiter there is only one waiter there, and he's very rude and very hard to deal with.
Yes.
So sometimes when this person goes to the restaurant, sometimes he's treated very, very bad, very rude, and sometimes even if he's ready to pay for the food, the waiter won't give him the food and put him out of the restaurant, etc. But if this person comes to me and complains each time that he's kicked off from the restaurant, I would say, well, don't go there anymore. I mean, who is forcing you to go there?
Yeah.
We can compare our foolishness with behavior in a sense. It's like we're hitting our head against the wall time and time again, and we still go to the same place.
Yes. We are very slow to learn from our lessons. we need to be burnt many times before we learn not to touch the fire. A wise person, they feel the fire once and they never touch it again. But we are such fools, we keep on. Maybe there's something in that fire that I can get. But we burn ourselves every time. Such is the nature of seeking happiness in anything other than ourselves. So if we are truly following this path, we will feel ourselves to be the worst, but at the same time, we will be able to see the greatness of Bhagavan's teaching, the greatness of this path. Though we may be following it only to a fraction of an extent, how much benefit there is from this, from following this path. That is, even if we surrender ourselves, even to a slight extent, the freedom of being relieved from a burden is so great, even for that slight surrender. How great will be if we were able to surrender ourselves completely. So people sometimes say, you've been following this path for so many years, but you say, but you're. I mean, what benefit have you got? Have you attained self-realization? Then, if you haven't attained self-realization, why should you believe this path is going to lead you to self-realization? Forget about self-realization. Just even though we're not following this path adequately, even to the slightest extent of following this path relieves us of so much burden. Our lives are, I would say, anyone who's following this path, we're not, of course, none of us are perfectly happy, but I think we're happier. We will be able to see, but we are much happier than we would have been if we had not been at least attempting to follow this path. If we had not understood Bhagavan's teachings, even to the slight extent we had understood them, if we have not tried to put them into practice to the slight extent we have tried, how much more miserable our life will be. We will be able to see that clearly. So this path is self-validating. Even if we're not following it very successfully, even the slightest extent of following this path will convince us that this is the way. This is there cannot be any better way than this. I don't know if what I'm saying is clear. It may not. I'm not. It's difficult to express what I'm saying, but I think what I'm trying to say is that we, on the one hand, following this path will show us our defects, make us more and more humble, and make us feel, as you say, we're the worst of the worst. But at the same time, it will reveal to us that following this path is the only way to overcome all these things. And even a slight effort made in this path yields so much benefit. Not in a gross sense. The benefit is a very, very subtle benefit, but it's subtle, but it's still clear to us. the benefit I'm talking about is the benefit of the relief from the burden of concern about anything other than our own being. Of course, we are still concerned about those things, but even if that concern is reduced to a slight extent by following this path, we can see that clearly.
I don't think any of us would change that small percentage.
Yeah.
Which we are following this path for.
Yeah.
Whatsoever. Just like it's, as you say, in and of itself, it's a reward. It's
It's a this path is its own reward. That's why I say forget about self-realization or annihilating the ego. That's leave that. That's Bhagavan's concern. At least if we can try to some small extent to follow this path, we are thereby immensely benefited.
No other interest in that staying in I am, no?
No, yeah. I mean, we all have so many other interests, but we will see more and more clearly that none of these other things we may be interested in, none of these other things we may have taste for, we may have inclination toward, none of these things are truly satisfying. True satisfaction can be found only by subsiding within.
Or living, no, the insatisfaction very crude in the life.
Yes.
Because sometimes, no, is the suffering what impulses us, no?
Yes.
I don't know if with your recent problem in the back, no, that you feel, if this increase the vichara in you.
I can't say definitely, but it does show me very clearly that when we're in pain or something, that shows us how foolish we are to cling to this body with so much attachment. I mean, sometimes illness and ailments and so on, they're very, very powerful reminders. That's why it is, if we are ill, that illness is given by Bhagavan for our own benefit. The whatever difficulties, whether ill health or any type of difficulty we face in life, that is all Bhagavan's grace. He's giving us those difficulties in order to show us the unavoidable shortcomings of embodied existence. So long as we rise as ego, cling to this body as I, we have to suffer all these things. We have to suffer bodily ailments, illnesses, and so on. This body is always liable to accidents and things that can cause so many problems. It's liable to get all sorts of diseases. I mean, this is just the nature of the body. And so long, even if we are fortunate to have reasonably good health, still life has so many other problems. We've got to pay the bills, we've got this problem, we've got that problem, relationship problems. Life is full of problems. So, and all these, that is, whatever difficulties we face in life, if we really have a liking to follow this path, all these difficulties will be reminding us of the defective nature of ego, of embodied existence. And so it will be encouraging us more and more, at least to try to cling to self-attentiveness, at least to try to surrender ourselves, at least to try to accept whatever may happen as Bhagavan's will for our own good.
Before you mentioned fire, no?
Yes.
And suddenly come to me the memory of Radha. I don't know if you knew her, this devotee of Bhagavan, that they say that she committed suicide by burning herself to death. No?
Oh, I didn't hear about that. No.
There is a channel in YouTube. It's called Ganges, with too many videos of Papaji, no? And there are some video of this woman which name is Radha, is in Hindi.
Yeah.
And I hear and read that she commit suicide, burning himself at Gonzo style, no?
Yeah.
And the friends of her told that is for love to Bhagavan, no? I don't want to live more how this body. I want to. What's your opinion about the possibility that someone wants to stay in the braces of love, and I don't want to this body more?
I would say that is lack of discrimination, lack of viveka. Bhagavan has said regarding some people do physical austerities in the name of spirituality. Bhagavan said that is like if a person has done wrong, beating the chair on which they're sitting. The chair is not at fault. It's the person who's sitting on that chair who's the culprit. Likewise, this body is not at fault. There's nothing wrong with this body. The problem lies in us as ego, but we identify this body. I am this body. So if the suicide that is required is not bodily suicide, because that's misidentifying the culprit. Like the cause of our suffering is not this body. The cause of our suffering is our identification with this body. That which identifies itself as I am this body, that is ego. So we can free ourselves from embodied existence, not by killing body, but only by killing ego. Because if you kill the body, that's just the ending of one dream. Another body will come, another body will come. There's no end to it. So that is lack of true understanding of what Bhagavan's teachings are about. It's not this body. We can't solve this problem. What is separating us from Bhagavan is ego, not this body. We can't unite, we can't merge back into Bhagavan simply by killing this body. What we need to kill ego, the one who takes this body to be itself, the one who is identified, who has abhimanam for this body, who has identification and attachment for this body. Mm-hmm. I think that, I mean, that story you said about that lady, Radha, that sounds very sad, because that to me is, that shows someone who sadly failed to understand what Bhagavan's teachings are about. Bhagavan has given us this body for a purpose. This body may cause us all sorts of troubles, but the troubles that are given by this body are troubles given by Bhagavan, who has given this body, in order to help us to give up our attachment for this body. We can't give up the attachment for the body simply by killing it. Mm-hmm. We can give up attachment to the body only by investigating who am I attached to this body, and thereby eradicating this ego.
And I absolutely agree with that, no?
Yeah.
But it's a curious history of this lady.
Yeah. I mean, it happens sometimes. People do, in the name of following the spiritual path, people go astray in so many ways. But one thing is sure, Bhagavan will say, I mean, that Lady Radha may have made a mistake in killing that body, but Bhagavan will not leave her. Bhagavan will certainly save her. So in a sense, even to say it's sad, this is something that maybe that was something she had to go through to learn a lesson, and in the next life she'll have a greater degree of clarity. But we shouldn't blame the body for our problem. The problem lies in us in being attached to this body.
Mm.
So we shouldn't seek to punish the body. We should seek to punish the I that is aware of itself as I am this body. And we can punish that I only by clinging to self-attentiveness and thereby subsiding back within.
yeah.
Because what the ego likes nothing more than to rise and jump outwards. So if we want to punish this ego, cling to self-attentiveness and thereby subside back within.
In other
Deny
way,
the ego nature.
yeah. In other way, Michael, the last Sunday, you remember, no? You speak about the false consciousness that Chidabhasa
Yes.
represent, no?
Yes.
And how is a mix, no, of
Yeah.
upadhis with
Yes.
Satchit, but it's like a water. For example, no, with this analogy, no, you
Yes.
take a little water with barro. Barro, I don't know, is barro in English.
Sorry?
Mud?
Mud. Okay,
Mud.
yes.
Mix, no?
Yes.
This is not a pure water. It's not
Yeah.
pure,
Yes.
but it's water.
Yes.
In the case of Chidabhasa, this mix
Yes.
has the Satchit, the pure ayan,
Yes.
but is mixed with mark, no, with barro.
Yeah.
Okay. It's like the Sadhuam's analogy of the ray when in the mirror, no, the light of the sun goes from the mirror outside, no.
Yes.
This light is not a real light, but it's a expression, no, a reflection, no, of that, no.
Yeah.
In that way, conform this a person begins to attend himself as this ray of light.
Yes.
The light mix with the adjuncts, no?
Yes.
This humble, all these qualities of love, of what is really are, begins to appear in the personality, no?
Yes.
And it is how this light begins to be more similar to the light of the sun.
Yes.
Meanwhile, we are letting go all of the adjuncts of what is.
Yes.
You see how I explain?
Yeah. I understand. Yes.
Mm-hmm. And are you accord with that, or you want to?
Yes. I mean, no analogy explains this. Can explain this perfectly, but both the analogies you give of muddy water, yes, it is. There is, as Bhagavan often said, there's only one I. That one I in its pure condition, that is what we actually are. Ego is that same one I mixed and contaminated, conflated with adjuncts. So this is the, we can say pure I and impure I. It's not that they're two I's, it's the same I. It's because of the impurities, but this I, the I is ever pure actually, but so long as it seems to be mixed with so long as we conflate it with the impurities, it seems to be impure.
And in this way, for example, when we say, who is looking the phenomenal?
Yeah.
Who is looking? And sometimes you, Carlos, and me say, no, it's ego, no, because what our pure consciousness don't see anything. It's pure being. Okay. But if the component of Chidabhasa, the pure component of Chidabhasa is I am, is a pure business, is pure being, you can see the phenomenon if you are more attent yourself at the presence. If you are with your open eyes looking for a tree, for example, but you are very, very attent to yourself and not attent to yourself as a body, as a person, etc., you are more in the real component of Chidabhasa, more established, no, in what we really are. No?
Yes.
And from that, we can't say that is not ego, because ego is is there. Meanwhile,
yes,
Manonasa don't
yes,
destroy,
yes,
annihilate this
yes,
ego, but you are more in the real aspect of what we
yes.
really are.
Yeah. That is the efficacy of Bhagavan's path, because that is in when we are practicing self-investigation, we are holding on to the chit element of ego. And to the extent to which we hold on to the chit element, the jada element will slip off. Bhagavan often used the term that means slip off, because the jada element, that is the adjuncts, are not holding on to us. We are holding on to them. So if instead of holding on to the adjuncts, instead of holding on to the names and forms, the perceptions, obviously the first form we hold on to is this body, and then we're constantly holding on to so many other things. Instead of holding on to all these things, to the extent to which we hold on to ourselves, these things will slip off. So during the course of practice, we will still continue to be aware of the world and everything, but though we continue to be aware of the world, to the extent to which we are looking within and holding on to our being, the world will, it's very difficult to put it in words, because as soon as we try and put it in words, it suggests something else. But the world, we can say, the world still appears real, but it's less real. The world still appears attractive, but it's less attractive. It's somehow losing its hold over us, to the extent to which, by Bhagavan's grace, we subside back within. But it will lose its hold on us completely only when we merge back in the source.
Yes.
Until then, the world, the body, all these things will persist. We will still seem to be, I am this body, but it will have, of course, we are holding it, it's not holding us, but to put it in a metaphorical way, it will have less hold over us, which really means we will have less attachment to hold on to it.
Yeah, I take this for the conversation because, sometimes there are people that only see the black and the white, no? Or you are absolutely attend to yourself as I am and don't look the world, or you are looking to the world, involved in all of that, no? But the ways bit by bit, no? Try, while you are working or you are walking or similar, trying to sleep for the world and wake up for yourself, increasingly.
Ultimately, it is black and white. Either we're attending to ourselves or we're attending to other things. But the process of detaching ourselves from these things and returning to merge back in our source, that is a process. That is in the course of that process, it's not black and white in the sense that some people may think it is.
Sometimes you fall, no, in yourself, absolutely, for X time. But the other time of the day, you are progressively, no, in so.
There was some question I was asked on one of the comments on my blog a few days ago. Someone asking, I don't know whether I've noted it down here.
We'll give you an opportunity to your blog to open the comments again, Michael.
Not blog. Sorry, I keep on saying blog when I mean the YouTube channel. I get comments on YouTube channel. Yes. One of them recently, someone wrote, I think this was actually just yesterday, someone wrote a comment on one of the videos. It is said that our attention is to be on the fact that we exist, I am. Yet can I not be aware that I exist, I am, while also knowing the sound of the passing car? The answer to that is yes, of course. If our whole attention was absorbed in our being, we would not be aware of anything else. But that is what we are moving towards. During the practice, we still, we haven't, because our attention is not so totally absorbed in our own being, I am, we still continue to be aware of other things. So naturally, in the process, the world doesn't cease to appear until ego is eradicated. But the more we attend to our own being, to I am, the more we thereby subside into that, the less we will be concerned about the sound of a passing car, the less we will be concerned about any phenomenon in this world, the less we'll be even concerned about our own body. Because of course this body, it's here now, but it's going to go one day. So we'll be less and less concerned about these things, less and less these things in some way which can't be expressed very clearly in words. These things will appear less and less real. They still appear to be real, but not as real as they did previously.
When you said black and white, and it's because well, the knot is made up of chit and jada.
Yes, yeah.
You're looking away from chit to jada. You're trying to attend to chit.
Yes, but so long as we're bound by this knot, we are trying to move more and more towards the chit element.
Mm-hmm.
So the more we hold on to the chit element, I am, the more the jada element will have less hold over us, because we'll be holding it less tightly. Eventually, when we merge back in the chit element,
mm-hmm.
which is our own reality, when we merge in that completely, when ego is annihilated, then we are completely separated. Then all jada comes to an end.
Mm-hmm.
Because jada doesn't actually exist. It merely seems to exist.
That's why it's
so long as it seems to exist, it seems so real, but actually it has no reality whatsoever.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it's like ego seems to be there where we are looking away from ourselves.
Yeah.
And
yeah.
as long as we are looking within, it's ego subsides. So
yeah. If anyone has ever seen anything called ego, please put your hand up. Nobody has ever seen. It's only when we don't attend to ourselves that we seem to be ego. The more we turn within, the clearer it becomes that there's no such thing at all.
It's like
all that actually is there is the pure awareness I am. But to see that clearly, we have to persevere in this practice for as long as it takes. We get some inkling of it on the way, but it becomes perfectly clear only when ego is eradicated. And in order to eradicate ego, we need to persevere patiently and persistently in this path.
I have another question, Michael, about paragraph 6 in Nanyar.
Yes.
Bhagavan says, you mentioned it on last Sunday, vigilantly, as soon as each thought appears, if one investigates to whom it has occurred. There, by thought, he obviously he means as soon as the Vasanas sprouts.
Yes, yes. All thoughts, all phenomena are sproutings of the Vasanas.
Yeah, exactly. So the sooner the better. Yeah. It's not that you have to wait for a thought to.
Yeah. Well, they're rising constantly, as he says in the 10th paragraph. Mm-hmm. Though the Vasanas rise in countless numbers like ocean waves, so they're rising all the time. Even when we're trying to cling to self-attentiveness, they're still rising. Mm-hmm. It's just if we're holding firmly to self-attentiveness, we don't get carried away by them.
Mm-hmm.
And Michael, I have a little and a short declaration of a Zen master, no?
Mm.
I'd like to know your opinion and Carlos' opinion, no, about that, no?
Right.
He say, before a particular thought or expression could fully form, the knowing essence simply let go, causing mental formations to dissolve into nothingness. Eventually, the detached nature of the mind's true essence became so all-encompassing that the multitude of conscious expressions failed to take hold, dissolving before its still potent immanence. At that stage, Ma-Chee quotes mind, this is the name of this Zen master, Ma-Chee quotes mind resembled a battlefield where the forces of conscious existence were pit against the all-embracing essence, which encompassed everything but retained nothing. As profound emptiness constantly dissolves countless forms of emerging existence, the mind's knowing essence gained the upper hand, increasing in brightness and purity. Conceptual activity consists of naturally occurring mental phenomena that arise and cease spontaneously. These phenomena possess no awareness of their own. The awareness that knows them is the mind essence, the knowing nature that permeates everything. The mind is basically non-dual. It is just one vital reality. The flow of consciousness from the knowing center creates the illusion of duality, of inside and outside, of knower and known. And I read you that because, for example, Rupert Spira, that you know in the line of Atmananda, usually take the real aspect of Chittavasa to say that our real nature permea, ¿cómo es, Carlos? Permea.
Permeate.
Permeates or pervades or permeates
Yes.
The body and the world, no? And you will find the Vastu or Porul in all the apparent forms, no? And it's necessary to realign your body, mind, and the world with your real nature, no? What's your opinion about all of that?
We cannot see our real nature in everything without first seeing our real nature in ourselves.
Mm-hmm.
When we see our real nature in ourselves, what sees our real, okay, let's, instead of real nature, let's use the term pure awareness, because that is, pure awareness is our real nature.
Mm-hmm.
We cannot see pure awareness in other things without first seeing pure awareness in ourselves. Or seeing ourselves as pure awareness. When we see ourselves as pure awareness, what sees ourselves as pure awareness is only pure awareness. And in the view of pure awareness, there is nothing else. So Bhagavan has clarified that is the way it's expressed in many, many older texts. It is said all this is Brahman. That's how it's expressed in Upanishads and so on. In Buddhism, they have their own way of expressing it, but it amounts to much the same. It is true, ultimately, Brahman alone exists. So whatever appears has to be only Brahman. But there's an important middle step that Bhagavan has highlighted. As he says in verse 26 of Ulunaptu, if ego comes into existence, everything comes into existence. If ego doesn't exist, everything doesn't exist. Ego itself is everything. So what permeates all this is ego, because it's only, all this appears only in the view of ego. None of these phenomena that we see have any existence independent of ego. If we turn our attention within to see our own reality, ego will merge into that reality, into that pure awareness I am, and everything else will merge along with it. So the substance of all phenomena is ego. The substance of ego is Brahman. pure awareness. But if you miss that middle step, then there was something in that passage you read from the Zen master. A lot of it seemed to be coming very, very close. But one thing he said, it's the mind essence that is seeing all this. The mind essence there means ego. That is what is actually seeing all this is ego. But what is the essence of that essence? What is the essence of this ego? That is where we need to go. So when you were reading that passage, certain things seemed to be correct. Certain things, it wasn't very clear to me, well, how deep his understanding is. I mean, there's certain amount of truth in what is said there, but it's difficult to, if I were to read it more closely, I would maybe be able to see, but still it's always difficult when people express things to understand how deep their understanding is.
Yes.
And also about the practical thing, there's something there towards the beginning about letting go. How can we let go of things other than ourselves when the very nature of ego is clinging? How can ego let go of things? The only way to let go of all other things is to hold on to our own being. Ego has to hold on to something. The only way to get rid of ego is, instead of holding on to things other than ourselves, which is the norm, which is the nature of ego, we try to use this ego nature of clinging to cling to our own being rather than to anything else. And that is how ego will be destroyed. So merely saying, let go of these things is not a very practical instruction. Yes, of course, we've got to let go of all these things, but how can we let go? We can't let go by just imagining I'm letting go. The only way to let go of other things is to hold on to ourselves. To the extent to which we hold on to ourselves, other things will automatically be let go of. So we won't feel I am letting go. But so long as there's an I there to feel I am letting go, that itself is a clinging. I have renounced everything. That is so we may think we've renounced everything, but we've still not renounced the idea I have renounced. We're still clinging to that idea. So these are that ego has so many subtle ways of maintaining its own existence. The very nature of ego is to identify itself with this or with that. So the only way to get rid of ego is to hold fast to our own being. That alone will cut at the very root of ego. Otherwise, we're going from grosser attachments to more subtle attachments, but we're still attached. Is it clear what I'm saying?
Yes. For that, I detect a very possible problem with ego, when this communicator Rupert Spira usually said, try to realign your body, world, and mind with your true nature,
Yeah.
Because it's very true what you say, First, you need to know who you really are.
Yes.
and live from that,
Yes.
But for what reason are you going to realign what you really are with other things that there is not you?
Yes.
No?
If you know what you really are, there's nothing to realign. There's nothing that can be realigned to it, because it alone exists.
This realignment is automatically from the moment that you try to stay in what you really are.
Yes.
In the sense that all the files slip off. No?
Yes. How to realign rising with being? The only way to realign rising with being is for rising to subside back and merge into being. So long as there's rising, it is not aligned with being.
Because
So
you're
the
right.
only way to realign everything with being is just to be as we are. When we remain as we are, everything else merges back into our own being.
Mhm.
But I think also many people, I think Rupert Spira, from what I've heard, he seems to make this mistake. He seems to think that which is knowing all of this, he says it's consciousness that is knowing all of this, but he's not clearly distinguishing ego from pure consciousness. What knows all this is only ego. Bhagavan expresses it very simply, but beautifully and powerfully in verse 4 of Uludunapadu. If oneself is a form, the world and God will be likewise. If oneself is not a form, who can see their forms and how? So we are aware of things other than ourselves only when we are aware of ourselves as one among those other things.
That's very black and white.
The thing that we take ourselves to be is this body, which is one among all these many other things. So when we know ourselves as we actually are, we no longer take ourselves to be the body, so we're not aware of any forms whatsoever. That is why Uludunapadu is such an important text. What Bhagavan makes so clear in Uludunapadu, as far as I'm aware, it has not been made clear in any text before Uludunapadu or any of the ancient texts. Of course, in Bhagavan's own writings, it's there in so many places. It's implied in Nana and other works, but in Uludunapadu, he makes it so clear. But all of this appears only in the view of ego. If ego investigates itself, ego will merge back in its source, and everything else will merge along with it. This is the point that Bhagavan is digging in so many ways, in so many of the verses of Uludunapadu. But this is not made clear in the Upanishads or the Brahma Sutras or the Bhagavad Gita, any of those texts. There are a lot of very, very useful ideas in those texts. But this crucial practical thing, that all of this appears only in the view of ego. It's only when we take ourselves to be a body that we're aware of this world. That, it seems to me, these neo-Advaitins and these other, I'm not saying, I mean neo-Advaita is a rather vague term. It's got no, but people of the neo-Advaita tendency and people of who try to I don't know, these people who are trying to make this path more attractive to people. They have, what they seem to be failing to grasp is that the awareness or consciousness that knows all this is not pure consciousness, it is ego. And ego is not other than the pure consciousness, but it's not pure consciousness as it is. It's pure consciousness mixed and conflated with adjunct, and thereby seeming to be ego. And it's only in the view of ego that all these things exist. If you understand that, it simplifies things so much. And it's also such a practical teaching. So long as we rise as ego, the world appears. And inevitably, and the mind and ego will inevitably be grasping things other than itself. The only way to cut up the root of it is to cling to our own being, or as Bhagavan sometimes said, to investigate the source from which this I rises. The source from which the I rises is that chit element, our being, I am.
Yeah.
Okay.
And that missing step, also the ego, is one of the arguments against the existence of God, for example, that how can God allows all this suffering in this world and all this. Actually, God is pushing us towards Him.
Yes.
We have to put the our foot in the mud, and God is by giving us some. He's just trying to take us out from the mud. And one more thing about,
it's like a naughty child going out and playing on the street and getting in an accident. How can my parents allow me to go out on the street and play? Your parents were telling you not to go out on the street and play. You mischievously slipped out without your parents' consent. And so you got yourself into trouble. The ego is like that mischievous child.
One more thing about what we said about envy and all that before. The teaching of Ekajivavada can also be helpful in this regard, because
definitely, because there's no one else.
There's no one else.
No one else.
Who else is going to be? To envy? If we really imbibe ourselves with that.
That is, envy will arise when we give reality to the person we seem to be. So long as we take this person to be real, all the other people seem to be real. So if the other people have more of what we want them than we have, we will feel envious of them. But in this path, the more we go within, we are seeing the unreality of this person we seem to be. And to the extent to which we recognize the unreality of this person, we will recognize the unreality of all other people. That is why Ekajivavada is a type of solipsism, but it's a very, very subtle form of solipsism. Because so long as we take ourselves to be a person, yes, there are many people, we cannot deny that, and all those many people are as real as this person that we seem to be. But the purpose of Ekajivavada, as taught by Bhagavan, is for us to investigate not this person, but who is this I who is taking this person to be myself? The more we investigate this I and subside back within, the more this person we take ourselves to be will seem less real, and so others will seem less real. We can't dismiss the reality of others so long as we take this person to be real. So Ekajivavada is applicable only to going within, but to the extent to which we apply it by going within, as you say, there'll be no room for envy.
And even though
because not only will those other people be unreal, even this person who is potentially envious of those other people, even this person is unreal.
It seems like a twisted envy or something, because how can ego be envy? If ego, then the nature of ego is to attend to all the things and to grow abundantly. How is to be envy of someone who is subsiding? Actually, I mean, there's
exactly.
Yeah, it's like we don't want to subside. How can we envy
if we haven't subsided? It's because we don't want to subside. And regarding others, how can we know to what extent others are subsiding when we ourselves haven't subsided? And if we subside, we'll find there were no others to subside at all. The others rose because we rose. They rose only in our view. If ego comes into existence, everything comes into existence. If ego doesn't exist, everything doesn't exist. Ego itself is everything.
Yeah, everything covers everything. Literally.
Yeah, everything.
Others.
It covers everything except the only thing that actually exists.
Okay, so thank you, everybody.
Yeah.
Thank you, Michael, again.
Yeah.
Okay. Namo Ramanaya.
Namo Ramanaya.